What would you do if you focus your entire security program on just the asset?
If you focus just on the assets, that means you can answer pretty basic questions about it. You know, what you have, is it valuable? Is it sensitive? Is it regulated? You also want to know who's using it. We're in a world where stuff's on premises, stuff's in the cloud, stuff's where we have applications and users inside and outside. We're expected to access anything from anywhere, collaborate with people who might need it, convenience first. In that kind of world, do you know what people are doing? I said, monitor everything. And can you quickly detect and respond to threats? And if you do those two things well, it turns out you end up being compliant.
If you're starting greenfield and there's no data classification, right, it's going to be an uphill like slog for a while, right? But once you have it in place, it makes your life as a security practitioner that much easier, because now you know where, you know, your crown jewel assets are. You have your sensitive data inventory, and you know how to start adding security protection closer to the data, which I think is what we're trying to get to.
Parker Brissett asks this question. I'll ask you this one, Mario. Why is there such a high cost of doing good IP, information protections, and data governance?
It's expensive because of compliance regulations, like needlessly. I'm running into this issue now. It's like, I want to spend money on innovation, actually doing real like security work, but it turns out I have to spend millions of dollars on just retaining data to meet certain compliance regulations because other companies do security negligently. And therefore we get these regulations that penalize the entire industry.
Let's talk about data when it gets outside your database. I mean, it is now, as you have said, it's chaos, Brian. What recourse do we have at that point?
So most of your data is outside of your database these days, and databases are controlled at the application layer. They're far easier to secure and protect, which is why all these breaches don't involve databases anymore. They involve people, you know, ransomware isn't on your database, ransomware is on your files. So the answer then is what we're talking about today. Have a data first security program and realize that it's the data outside of databases, the stuff that's on your Isilons and NetApp and your big file platforms, SharePoint, 365, OneDrive, SharePoint Online, G Drive. There are plenty of organizations out there that have everything in G Drive because they're using GCP and Google Workspace for all of their collaboration. There's still ways to secure it. You need to know what it is, where it is, who has access to it, and how it's being used. You put all those things together and you can secure it. But a lot of enterprises are still in this mindset of, I've got a big firewall and all the important stuff is really in a database.
You got to start segregating your data, and then you figure out who really needs access to this, and then you walk that backwards and say, okay, these other 700 people that have access to this sensitive data that should have never had, let's start creating a trail. Like, did it ever leave? Are there other copies of this? Let's start calling it back so that we can get some element of control under where all this sensitive data is, and make sure that it's not moving in the future.
And this comes from Idan Gower. What would you say puts the business in higher risk? Exposing private chat conversations in Slack or social security number leakage?
It's definitely the private Slack messages.
Really?
That's going to be a legal nightmare. You will get sued into infinity and beyond. Everybody's social security numbers are pretty much public at this point. I can get anybody here's social security number in under 5 minutes. I can't necessarily always get through legal means everybody's Slack messages.
The other thing to keep in mind about Slack messages, you know who uses Slack a lot? Developers. You know what developers put in Slack a lot?
Code.
API keys,
Secret keys.
because they're code, secret keys to get access to. So as they're integrating and working things together. We have seen breaches that come from API keys in Slack. There's a Salesforce API key in a Slack message. You get access to that. Now you make that API, the guest API, you give it guest permissions to internal Salesforce data. Boom, I can dump all of your Salesforce data using Postman.
This comes from Jesse Rosenbaum, who says, some of our data protection problems stem from cheap storage can keep for years at low cost, like thinking, Google, if you have a free Google account, and the massive value that can be derived from large data sets over time may yield value in the future, may as well keep it. How will regulatory shifts in the U.S. around privacy and big tech change this strategy or not?
One of the things that is changing is things like the GDPR and CCPA, these kind of data-focused privacy regulations. One pillar or one big tenet of a lot of these is this notion of data minimization, that you shouldn't keep it around. Just because I gave you my data because I filled out a form somewhere or I was an employee once doesn't mean that you get to keep my data forever. Traditionally in IT, we've just kept everything because we don't want to be, talk about the department of, we don't want to be the department that says, oh, you need this? We deleted it last year because it hadn't been accessed. So, we end up just keeping everything forever because storage is cheap. the more modern regulations are saying, get rid of this stuff. But the data has value, and it has value to the business. So we can't just delete it, just like we can't just empty the bank account.
If you're not doing it, get started really quickly. This is kind of the basis for doing zero trust, and everybody kind of really wants to get there in a couple of years.
Nobody breaks into a bank to steal the pens. They're after money. Nobody's breaking into your network unless they're after data. Make sure you protect your data, and you can't catch what you can't see. So visibility and monitoring are everything.